Well, welcome once again to another rant from the Midnight Skeptic. It is Friday, the 13th, the 12th of July. And right now it's about 20 minutes after 8. Now, this is later than I usually record this, but we've been having an extremely hot streak here in Petaluma and California in general. Nothing like it is back in Arizona or any of those places. And we have our share of fires here that are going on right now. And our Cal Fire is putting them out as fast as they can. They've got a handle on almost all of them. Okay. This Midnight Skeptic rant will be broadcast this coming Sunday, the 14th, at the usual time, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on kpca.fm worldwide and locally 103.3 FM. And on YouTube, as soon as I can download this rant onto YouTube. Okay. The election is getting closer, only 4 months away, and the Midnight Skeptic, in his own small way, i.e., this KPCA's Sunday night and YouTube broadcast, that's a pretty small way, is plugging away trying to rid this country of all worshippers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag, MAGA heads, Republicans, and conservatives. Republicans and conservatives used to be, like decades ago, an honorable, idea-based group of people. I didn't agree with a lot of what they had to say, but you could discuss things with them. And, my liberal bent was not disparaged, or I didn't receive death threats. But that's all changed now with the advent of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Some of my listeners, excuse me, I need a sip of water here. Some of my listeners have questioned my descent into name calling, like calling Trump a scumbag. Well, I've been constantly referring to him as the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Orange is the color of his facial makeup. In his never-ending effort to deceive the public about his youth, his size, and vigor, he got his White House doctor, Ronnie Jackson, who should have his license removed, to say that Trump was 6'3" and only 215 pounds. That's not enough to be considered a bloat bag. He's around 300 easily. His niece, who is a psychotherapist, has called him a psychopath. She should know. He is a convicted criminal, a convicted rapist, and a pathological liar. So I am justified in labeling him a scumbag. So there, critics of the Midnight Skeptic. Okay. Now for the shout-outs. Okay, Project Censored. Mickey Huff, Nolan Higdon, and Andy Lee Roth, all professors at different colleges locally. I think Andy Lee Roth is at UC Santa Cruz. Mickey Huff is at um, the junior college right across the way. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it right now. A momentary blanking out on the name of it. Contra Costa College? No, that's wrong, but that's what they are. Okay. Aquas Cafe. Well, before I go to Aquas Cafe, go to Project Censored to their website and sign up for their newsletter and order yourself the latest book. They come out once a year. The State of the Free Press 2024. That's their latest one. Okay. Aquas Cafe here in Petaluma, California. John Crowley is one of the three founders of it or the owners of it. And they have created a community of like-minded individuals, nonprofits, art groups, literary groups, and even a group of psychotherapists. And once every couple of months, they'll have an event called Drinks with Shrinks that I've gone to a couple of times, and hopefully seeing some of the psychotherapists that I'm familiar with or know, and they didn't show up for whatever reason, but it was a neat event to hear them kvetching with each other. Okay, the Phoenix Theater here in Petaluma over on Washington and what's the cross street? Howard. It's a hangout for the alternative teens. There are skateboarding ramps down where the seats in the theater used to be, and they play music every weekend that runs toward grunge and metal. Check out their schedule online. Nariman and Art Kuznets locally. And I met Art at B'nai Israel Temple. My wife was Jewish. She passed in 2013. And Rabbi Ted's a very good guy. He's retired now. He's no longer the rabbi there. Okay. More locally. Kevin and Lori, Tim Conrad, Tom and Nancy Throw, Dave and Rosita Takach up there in Sacramento, Rich and Kathy in Sebastopol. I hope you guys enjoyed your vacation on the Mississippi River and through the South. Dennis and Megan in Tiburon, Yvonne and Rick in San Francisco, and down in L.A., Aunt Jackie and Samantha and her other daughter, brain freezes. I hate them. Samantha and Melanie, who is living now in Austin, Texas. My brother Brandon and his wife Mina in the Phoenix area, actually the Santan Valley area, and their daughter Andrea and her husband Tim and their three little ones who are growing up way too fast. The youngest one starts kindergarten this next school year. Okay, and in Patagonia, Arizona, Karina Hilliard, the animal control officer, who I met at a skeptics conference, and she is as skeptical as anybody. Okay. Arkansas, Shannon Reed, Florida, Nelson and Alice Lydell, and Amelia Beamer. Check her out on YouTube. She shills for the Locust magazine. Locust magazine is right over here in the East Bay, in I think Emeryville or Contra Costa County somewhere. Anyway, they are a magazine that reviews books in the three genres of science fiction, fantasy, and fantasy, science fiction, And, God, the third one. Brain freezes. I hate them. All right. It'll pop into my mind. Too late, as it always does. Okay. And fantasy, horror, and science fiction. Maybe I should consult my notes. Okay. Dr. Dave up in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, who is retired as the world's greatest pulmonary physician, and he does art now, painting and found objects artworks. I think he's still up in Chicago now showing his works, but follow him on Dave Rubin Painting. .org, I think. Okay. Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, and back over here on the West Coast, the Sonora Crowd, Robert Finnegan, Bob and Sandy Fisher, their two children, Brad and Martha, Darrell Larson, Judy May, Kathy Francis, and Lynn Quayle, who splits her time between Sonora and Manhattan. Boy, what a difference that is. But she owns a rent-controlled apartment in Manhattan. And she has to spend 6 months there in order to keep the rent control going. Okay. And up Highway 108 into Twain Harte, John Gleason. And then his two daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer. I don't know where they're both living now, not in Twain Harte, but they listen in every now and then. And then all the way down in Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. I hope that the new president of Mexico, and her name escapes me, I'm off my notes right now, fixes the water situation in Mexico City. She was the mayor of Mexico City for a while, and their reservoirs are drying up. Oh boy. And this hot weather in the northern hemisphere is not helping. Okay. Good news. Nikki Hiltz, capital Hiltz, is running in the Olympics. Her specialty is women's 1,500 meters, and she will be there. And she identifies as transgender and non-binary. She was, at birth, assigned female, and she was had female sex, genitalia, and as she grew older, she decided that she was non-binary, and she runs in female events, mainly the 1,500 meter, and she's taken a lot of flack from ignorant MAGA-head Republicans who think that she was assigned male at birth and then transitioned. No, not true. Nikki Hiltz was assigned female at birth, and now she is non-binary. And let's see, her girlfriend is Emma Gee, Gee, her partner, and she runs track at Brigham Young University, and she is the only out LGBTQ athlete at Brigham Young. Boy, has she probably put up with a lot of flack from those Mormons at Brigham Young. But Nikki Hiltz and Emma Gee are considered by female sports as a power couple. I wish them both well. Okay. Good news. California is launching its ballot effort this November to finally repeal once and for all the last vestiges of Proposition 8, which was put in there, I think, in 1994 to outlaw same-sex marriage in the California Constitution. Well, it passed, unfortunately, and since then, there's been a strong backlash, and including at the federal level, Obergefell in 2015, I believe. I'm off my notes, so you'll have to bear with me here. But Obergefell's decision by the Supreme Court would override that in California, but it's still on the books, and hateful Republicans and MAGA heads will certainly try to use that to stop same-sex marriage. Okay, so on the ballot this November is a proposition that will remove it once and for all from the state constitution. All right. You know, I still have my No on Prop 8 button that I wore around. It was 1994 or 1996, I think that's when it was. It's not in my notes, but I still have the button. Okay, good news from the British royals. It is universally held that the Queen absolutely detested Donald Trump. She was very much a conservative woman who held good manners and protocol above all things, and being manhandled, as Trump did, was just not done. And anathema to her. She hated everything he stood for, his right-wing views, his loudness, and his bragging seemed to her to be all that was wrong with the United States, encapsulated into one person. This never came across in her public face, quote unquote, because she was a sheer professional, as is her son Charles, the current king. Other EU leaders had and have now a head-shaking response to the U.S. Back in 2016 when he first came into being as a president, electing the orange sociopathic bloat bag. It's not just his boorishness, but also his stupidity and ignorance of foreign matters. He doesn't read. He will not read. I mean, I assume he knows how, but he does not read. Even his memos that are given to him by his aides. Okay, his aides and cabinet members have to almost put policies and memos into comic book format in order for him to understand things. Trump's performance in Helsinki, if you remember this, my listeners should remember it, because I've mentioned it in a bunch of shows way back when. Okay, Trump's performance in Helsinki, that's Finland, with Putin in July of 2018. Trump was fawning over Putin. and siding with him over the U.S. intelligence services and the FBI. He disagreed with them and took Putin's word for it that he didn't interfere in the 2016 election. So that's yet another reason why in the upcoming election this November, Putin and the Republicans have a very strong pro-Russian, pro-Putin wing, all right? They want Russia to prevail in their war against Ukraine. Mark my words, if the orange sociopathic bloat bag wins, then aid to Ukraine will be cut off. And Putin will be invited to the White House. A quote from the orange sociopathic bloat bag, and this was on June 22nd of this year, 2024. It's not that long ago. It was a quote, but it was from one of his rambling, nonsensical misunderstanding of everything. Okay, here's a direct quote. When there's so much water, you don't know what to do with it. You know it's called rain. It rains a lot in certain places. But with, no, their idea. You have, did you see the other day they just I opened it up and they closed it again. I opened it, they close it. Washing machines to wash your dishes. There's a problem. They don't want you to have any water. They want no water. None of that makes any sense. Who is the they that doesn't want us to have water? Oh boy. Our potential president. We cannot allow this scumbag to get back into the White House. We just can't. Please, all my followers out there, my thousands and thousands of listeners, vote out all Republicans. Please. The Midnight Skeptic is begging you. Whew. Okay, bad news for Rudy Giuliani. Update. A New York judge throws out Rudy's bankruptcy case. Creditors can now go after his assets. Yay for the 2 Georgia election workers who won $148 million from Giuliani. I hope they can collect it. They deserve it. Their lives have been miserable ever since the 2020 election. Because of threats from the stupid MAGA heads. Bad GOP news. Project 2025. Joseph Coors, the beer guy, is one of the founders of the Heritage Foundation. It used to be a fairly respectable conservative think tank with ideas that could be discussed and deliberated. Trade policies, how much government regulation is needed, how much government regulation is needed. I said that already. Trade policies, how much... Oh, man, my notes are a jumble. Okay, tax policies and so on. But now the Heritage Foundation has gone off the rails and down the conspiracy rabbit hole. They're already saying that the 2024 election is rigged. They're already saying it. Okay, here we go. Bad news. More on Project 2025. The orange sociopathic bloat bag professes ignorance about Project 2025, who composed it, and even what the Heritage Foundation is. His own advisors now and during his administration wrote this up. It is a comprehensive plan by former and future leaders of an orange sociopathic bloat bag administration to remake America into a conservative mold while dramatically expanding presidential power and allowing the orange sociopathic bloat bag to use it to go after his critics. He lies that neither he nor his campaign had anything to do with Project 2025. It is a more than 900-page blueprint for a second orange sociopathic bloat bag administration. Mass deportations, politicizing the federal government, especially the Department of Justice, cutting entire federal agencies like the Department of Education, and infusing Christian nationalism into every facet of government. Policy. Pornography, at least what GOP MAGA heads consider it to be, would be banned. The traditional nuclear family would be promoted. That means no same-sex marriages. The Heritage Foundation is a sponsor of the Republican National Convention, which is next week in Milwaukee. It will be interesting, if nothing else, and the last day of it, I think the orange sociopathic bloat bag will announce who he wants as his running mate. He's down to 3 toadies and bootlickers. Little Marco Rubio is one of them. J.D. Vance, who used to be somewhat sensible. He wrote a couple of novels, and something changed in his mind. Maybe he has a worm in his brain like Kennedy Jr., but he changed from being a Democrat a while back, a couple of decades ago, to being a Republican now. And then Governor Burgum of North Dakota. Those 3 bootlickers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag will be who the orange sociopathic bloat bag chooses as his running mate. Bad news for women in Christianity. I've said over and over and over again that all religions are misogynistic. Well, bad news for women in Christianity. Again, Paul, in Corinthians 14:24, instructs women to be silent in church. Earlier, in 1 Corinthians 11, he says women who pray in church should veil their heads. God doesn't want to see the head or face of a woman who's praying to him. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. Christianity. What a stupid religion. Almost as stupid as fundamentalist Islam or Orthodox Judaism or Hinduism. They have their ridiculous parts as well. I am not an Islamophobe. I am not anti-Jewish. I am not, in general, anti-Christian. It's just that all of them are misogynistic. I am pro-women. Okay. News topic. The hateful MAGA-head GOP backlash against DEI. Well, what's that? Diversity, equity, and inclusiveness is spreading, especially in GOP states. I, the Midnight Skeptic, is spreading. I, the Midnight Skeptic, think that in hiring and in education, requiring applicants to explain their feelings about DEI and how they would help it along is going a bit too far. I don't think applicants at colleges or applicants at companies where they want to work should require these applicants to explain themselves in a written statement. It's enough that they go along with DEI, all right? And to that extent, I am for the GOP feelings on DEI. Okay, I'm all for all three of those things. I want there to be more diversity in education at all levels, at employment at all levels, and I'm all for equity, however that's defined. Equal treatment for all people in education, in the workplace, in medicine, everything. Okay, and inclusiveness, which kind of is another way of saying everybody should be welcomed in education at all levels, employment at all levels, in medicine and health at all levels. All right? That's all it is. Who, except for the hateful MAGA heads, would be against any of that? Eventually, DEI should not be needed. And I've written to myself here to riff on this topic, and I think I just did. Whew. Bad, lying MAGA news. Immigration type bad news. Fox News and the lying MAGA politicians are constantly claiming that immigrants bring crime and drugs and are incarcerated more than Native Americans. Not true. Research has shown that since the 1960s, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than United States-born people, natives. Okay, researchers at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank they're down by Stanford University, I believe. Cato Institute wrote a paper about crime and immigration in Texas. They were singling out that state to write about. Okay, what they found. It came out, this paper that the Cato Institute ran or wrote, came out in 2020, not that long ago. They found that undocumented immigrants were 37% less likely to be convicted of a crime than resident citizens. Other research shows that there is no correlation between the rise in undocumented immigrants in cities, such as New York and Chicago, and the rise in crime rates in these cities. Another Republican myth is that immigrants are bringing in drugs like fentanyl, for instance. The vast majority of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings by people authorized to cross the border. 90% of drugs come into this country across these official border crossings. All of this is just a cruel Republican way to gain fear votes. MAGA-head Republicans want to believe these things, and so they hang on every word that's spewed forth by Fox Spews and other MAGA politicians. Bad news in Indiana. LifeWise, capital L-I-F-E, capital W-I-S-E, that's smooshed all together, Academy, a Christian nonprofit, has been granted permission by the state of Indiana to offer Bible classes off-site during classroom hours. I guess math and reading is not that important in Indiana. Joel Penton, capital P-E-N-T-O-N, the founder and CEO of it, the LifeWise Academy, says, quote, values of faith and the Bible are absolutely central to many families. Parents want to demonstrate to their children that it is central to their lives. LifeWise programs will be available at over 520 locations in 23 states next school year. Okay, if Christian parents want to indoctrinate their kids, let them go to Sunday school or some kind of after-school Bible study. Not that I would be in favor of that, but during school hours is just ridiculous. I'm sure that brave Democratic politicians in the Indiana legislature will introduce a bill or bills to disallow this during school hours Bible study. And if they're not, I hope they do. Historical news. 17th century Europeans, 17th century means 1600 to 1700. The New World had been discovered by Columbus and other explorers. it hadn't been quite settled yet. The Spanish had settled Florida in a couple of places. So contact with indigenous peoples was done. They know that. The explorers knew about them and kidnapped a couple of them to bring back to Europe. Okay. Historical news. 17th century Europeans were confused about the diversity of human groups, including groups in Africa. Europeans assumed, because of the stupid Christian religion, that all humans descended from Adam and Eve. Then how did native peoples come to exist in the New World or in Africa? German naturalist Johann Blumenbach, who lived from 1752 to 1840, thought and came up with this theory about the degeneration of humans from Adam and Eve. And of course, the degeneration of humans resulted in indigenous peoples and the New World, and in Africa, and for that matter, Asia, although I didn't read that part of it. Okay. Racism evolved out of his degeneration theory. Okay? It evolved out of this erroneous thinking about, a number of things. First of all, Adam and Eve were mythological characters. All of Christianity is just one big myth and lie. And there was no such thing as degeneration. But anyhow, that is an early finish to this latest rant by the Midnight Skeptic, and it's actually 42 and a half minutes that I've been ranting. So there will be another Midnight Skeptic show next week, and I'll comment on the Republican convention as well. Okay, again, this all will be broadcast on kpca.fm worldwide this Sunday. And on Sunday the 14th, geez, I'm running out of steam very rapidly here, so let me just play my play out music. And I think I might have forgotten to play my play in music. Oh boy. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, I can't emphasize enough how important it is, should you be lucky enough to have a cat, or 2 or 3 or 8, to pet them. it really is a way of relaxing and letting the stress and strains of the world just ease out of the top of your head, and life will be better for it. Okay, this is the Midnight Skeptic here in Petaluma, California, checking out, and listen up for next Sunday's Midnight Skeptic. I hope I will record this a bit earlier, like maybe Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Well, no, it'll probably be Thursday or Friday again, because I want to get the whole Republican convention under my belt so I can comment on their stupidity and fawning admiration of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. All right, until next week, so long.